All right. Hi. I'm Ivan Richmond. I'm a Wiccan priest of 20 years and the author of this book, The Religion of Good. And with me is Mannun. Um, Mannun, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure, I'm a Wiccan high priest myself. I'm a third degree Gardnerian. I have a YouTube channel I call Witch in the Working, where I teach all about Wicca, witchcraft, paganism, the occult, all kinds of subjects. And I've been Gardnerian for 26 years now, and Wiccan for 36 years.
Wow.
But 10 of
Yeah.
that was eclectic, so not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, 10 was eclectic, and then I was kidnapped into Gardnerian.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of the same way because I started out in a tradition of Wicca you've never heard of before called Waxing Moon. So I got my 3 degrees there. That started in the early 80s. And then I wanted to really get back to like the traditional stuff that came from Gerald Gardner and find out what that all was and everything, go back to the source. And I got into Gardnerian. So I'm both a Gardnerian third and a Waxing Moon third. I've been Waxing Moon for like 20 years and Gardnerian since 2009, I guess. So I don't know. Not good with math. That's what, like
15 years,
2
16
years.
years, 15,
Yeah.
16, something like that. Yep.
Yeah. So Manon, you did this really awesome talk at Gerald Gardner's birthday bash about the Wiccan Rede. So Gerald Gardner's birthday bash is this online convention we have in June that the New Wiccan Church puts out. So the New Wiccan Church is this organization that is for British traditional Wiccan clergy, and and every year around Gerald Gardner's birthday, which is June 13th, we do this free online convention. And you came and you talked about like the Wiccan Rede and how it's a lot more nuanced than people think. And
Yeah.
since I've written this book on ethics, like my book is more like general ethics, more than more than um, like uh, like Wiccan ethics specifically. But I was really interested in. I'm really trying to like dialogue with other people about ethics. And by the way, I should probably mention I have my own YouTube channel as well, which is also just called The Religion of Good. Um, and so I thought, like we should talk and just like hang out and talk ethics and see what happens. So
Yeah. No, it sounds fun. Um, yeah. So when I did that talk, that talk, I actually entitled it "Harm Ye None, but Take No Shit," and that's actually I'm writing a book right now myself on that, and on that subject. And what made me want to do this was the community because of my YouTube channel. I have a lot with the community, a lot of contact with the community, and I would see so many times from occultists out there, people who are in occult but not necessarily Wiccan, say that they had a problem with Wicca specifically because of the Wiccan Rede and because of the Threefold Law and certain things like this. Most of the time, 90% of the time, they said if they had a problem with Wicca, it was because of that. So it made me start asking questions and start being like, what's the, why, what's the problem? And the reality is because they would say that it's very white lighter, fluff bunny moon ferret. In other words,
yeah,
they believe that if it says it meant that they believed that the term and it harm none, do as you will means do whatever you want in life as long as you don't hurt anyone or anything, and you can't and you're not allowed to hurt anyone. So if somebody comes up and kicks you, all you can do is bow down to them and say thank you for kicking me. May I move on now or something? Like that's just not the way it works at all. That is not what the term means at all. That is a bunch
right.
of horse hockey. And it made me want to and again, and the same thing with the threefold law of retribution. They would come back and say the same thing, that like how could somebody believe in this thing when there's so many people out there that do these horrible things and get away with it, and everybody's fine with it, and there's no you know retribution and everything and all, and for them and whatnot. And I'm just like, well, it's again, you're misunderstanding the entire term and the entire philosophy of it. So that's what made me want to explain. And I guess that title, Harm Ye None But Take No Shit, is a good title for me because it clears it up in one sentence. It's like, no, it's not really. And that's why I started going to right away. And to answer all these people, I would literally sit there and say, well, listen, first of all, my philosophy is harm ye none but take no shit, which is really what that read should say.
Yeah.
Because it's not saying harm ye none and take it again and slap me again and put some stink on it. It's saying harm me, it's saying if somebody does something shitty, it means don't walk around looking for trouble.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
definitely,
if
right.
it brings trouble to you, by God, take no shit and hit them back.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that was actually kind of part of where my book came from, is that like I was trying to figure out my ethics, and a lot of people in the pagan community told me, something like just figure it out for yourself, or just, follow your heart, or something. And I had all these, but there's all these moral dilemmas, right? Like when is it okay to harm people and when is it not? And they can be difficult to tease that out. And so what I did with my book is I did this kind of deep dive into philosophy, like Western philosophy primarily. Although I ended up bringing some Eastern philosophy in because I was raised I was actually raised Zen Buddhist. But the point being that a lot of what the philosophers were trying to do was try to figure out like when exactly is it okay to harm people, and not always very successfully. Like what I found is that is not always, you can't really always have like an algorithm for things. You can't just have like a simple rule. That it'd be nice if we just had simple rules we could follow, but it doesn't really work that way. That's not really how ethics works, because the whole dilemma is like we can't just never harm anybody. We should need to defend ourselves, but we also don't want to be like a bunch of Nazis either or something, right?
Right.
And so, like for me, I was interested in trying to figure out like a general theory of ethics that made sense to me, but also kind of from a pagan perspective. And what I came up with is that I think that the goodness is an ineffable mystery. And then I thought, how do we get at ineffable mysteries? We use spirituality and religion, right? Like not religion in like the dogmatic sense, like not like the thou shalt and thou shalt nots, but like that's what we're trying to get away from. But
Right.
but rather like ritual, meditation, like ecstatic states, like ultra states of consciousness. Like we use that to like get in touch with something that's ineffable and mysterious that we're having trouble getting in touch with it in a way.
Like more like on a spirituality type essence instead of
yeah, exactly. Like so to me, I was like, oh my gosh, like the way that we get to understand the gods is the same way that we get to understand goodness. That's kind of my thesis in here.
and I think that for the most part, most people, the majority of people, want to be good. They want to do the good thing. They want to do the right thing. It's not like the world is so horrible that, I mean, you of course there's its exceptions. I'm not by any means saying everybody wants to be good,
right?
But the majority of people really do want to do good. It's funny because I actually learned that from an officer,
from
a police officer, and it was not. I didn't know the guy. It was on TV, and I was watching a thing on some kind of documentary. Maybe it was even cops or something. I don't even know. But the cop said, in his experience of being on the force for the last 30-something years, was that the majority of people actually want to be good and want to do the right thing and do good things. It's just you have a small percentage that screw things up,
That's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. That I feel yeah. And and there's like another thing in Wicca that that the more I think about it, the more I feel like we ought to bring up, is in the charge of the goddess. The goddess says that her law is love unto all beings, and and like a lot of the people who are like going off about the Wiccan Rede and going off about the Threefold Law of Return never seem to bring that one up. And I actually really love that one because
Yeah.
there's a lot you could do with that. Like that doesn't say you can't harm somebody. You might defend yourself or others out of love, right? Like okay,
Yeah.
like I'll tell you like there's this tell you a story. I could actually find the video on this to prove it. Okay, there was this contemporary philosopher at the Royal Institute in Britain, and he got to talk with the Dalai Lama, and he asked the Dalai Lama, okay, it's 1939, you meet Hitler, you have a pistol in your pocket, it's loaded. Number
Mhm.
one, do you kill him? Like, let's say assume that killing him would stop the concentration camps. Number
Yeah.
one, would you kill him? Number two, would you be angry? Number three, would you feel compassion for him? The Dalai Lama's answer is yes, I'd kill him. Why? Because he's going to produce all this really bad karma. I could save 6 million people by killing him.
Right.
Why would you be angry? No. If I were angry, I wouldn't know whether or not it was the right thing to do. Um, and number three, would you feel compassion for him? Yes. Why feel compassion for somebody who's going to kill 6 million people? Because anybody who does that must be incredibly ignorant, and that's really sad and tragic. And I was like, wow, that is an amazing answer, you know.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's kind of like I feel like when we talk about love unto all beings in the charge of the goddess, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not harming people. Like we might like kill Hitler out of love for 6 million people in the concentration camps,
Yeah.
right? Like love unto all be or like what one thing that my initiating high priestess Valerie likes to say is she says I can love somebody and still want them to still feel that they need to die, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody's a total tyrant and they're killing people and it's really wrong, like
Mhm.
they need to die. But
Yes.
that doesn't mean I can't hold out,
That's
agape.
that's actually a huge that's actually a huge lesson and a huge what's the word I'm looking for? A huge storyline in a lot of ancient stories and stories that even carry out today. I mean, all
Mm,
of that, about being totally having so much love for a person, but then realizing that they're about to do something that's going to be really, really bad, so they have to be destroyed. I mean, even like something as silly as like you've seen Game of Thrones, right?
Actually, I am woefully ignorant of Game of Thrones.
Oh,
For
okay.
for whatever
So
reason, I never got onto it.
that entire series, that at the very end at that series, up no spoiler alert,
Yeah.
the very final thing that happens in the very last episode is the one queen that was the dragon queen and the big star, like one of the major stars of the whole movie, gets killed by her lover, by the person that they were all hoping were going to be the king and queen. She has to be destroyed at the very end because he realizes, as much as he loves her and as much as and all this, that she's about to use her dragons to do a lot of harm to innocent people,
Mm.
just to make a point. So he kills her at the last second, like kills her, and it's big in a lot of different stories that play out in different scenarios. So
Right.
it's interesting you bring it up, but it's true what you say about the goddess. Where love unto all, like in the what the heck is it called? I keep on wanting to say call the goddess. What is it?
Charge of the goddess.
Charge of the goddess. And
Yeah.
the charge of the goddess, yeah. And I believe that. And it's like people will say, how come and it harm none, for those that are on the side of like Wiccan, is how come harm ye none, or and it harm none, do as you will? How come it can't just be all about love and da 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 da? And I'm like, because it's not realistic. It's
Yeah.
totally unbalanced. It's not that realistic. I mean, even if it means you got to be able to harm something, even if it's, I mean, you do all the time. You can't live without harming something.
Right.
That's also a living thing. If you get sick, I mean, you got to kill something to get better. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a virus or something that you have or whatever, something has to end, either you or it, so, on a very microbial level, but regardless. And that's the way a lot of things work in life. But the thing is it makes sense. I understand, and the reason this and it harm none, do as you will was pushed so hard was because of during a time in the 70s, maybe even the 80s, probably late 70s, early 80s, when Wicca was first really starting to boom. I mean, it started coming out in the 50s, 60s,
Right.
but it really started to boom with people, with everybody. Llewellyn got hold of it, in other words, and really wanted to put it out there. And I'm grateful for that, by the way. I love that Wicca got put out there and got thrown out there, really shoved out into the public, because it really did make it grow, and it caused. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel right now if it wasn't for Llewellyn. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So,
It's true.
so the reality is, but they had to push because society at that time, especially, was going through the satanic panic and everything. And if
Right.
you said the word witch or witchcraft, you were automatically, you might as well just say Satan and satanic and all this horrible things and killing things and doing all these horrible things and sacrificing children and all this other bullshit.
Right.
And it was important to get it out there, the softer side of Wicca, the side of Wicca that would show society that, hey, this is not the evil thing that you think it is, because that's what you've been conditioned to believe your whole life through church and society and everything else. A witch is not a bad word. It's not a bad thing, and so they had to retrain everybody's minds. And one of the ways to do that is to pound them with the truth, and the truth is that Wicca and witchcraft is not this satanic, horrible, disgusting thing. And unfortunately, so that got the pendulum going from Satanism, horrible, everybody's out to kill everybody, to swing back all the way over here to now, where now it's fluff bunny, moon ferret, white lighter, nobody causes harm to anyone. You might as well be, this is an occultist, nightmare. It's like nothing to do with anything. It's all a bunch of nonsense. The pendulum needs to be here. I mean, it's like, it needs to be in the middle, or at least swing a lot slower. Or not quite as far anyhow. Maybe the pendulum, instead of going like this, maybe go like this,
No, I got you 100%. I mean, absolutely. Like there's this like there's this big push to kind of make everything look really nice and innocent, but then the problem is that then it makes it look like too simplistic and
went too far.
And I think that actually we Wiccans are very, very committed to goodness. I mean, I think one thing that we're kind of doing is we're kind of like spiritual pioneers who are like a lot of us don't like the dogma of monotheistic religions that a lot of monotheistic religions seem to have, where there's all these like commandments and stuff, because that doesn't work. It's like, well, who's right, Christians or Muslims? Like, they're fighting with each other all the time and butting heads all the time, and we're seeing that, and it's like, well, how do they know? Like, they don't know that there really was this God that gave them these commandments. Like, do you think that an all-powerful God would be like do something so silly as to like give people scripture they could disagree over? Like, I mean, what kind of, like, an all-powerful God would just like beam it right into our heads so we know from birth how to be good? And I think a lot of us are really fed up with that kind of dogma, and I think that's one reason why we're here. And I think we're actually here as like people who are very committed to goodness, because we want real goodness. We don't just want like a bunch of rules. And like another problem I think a lot of us have with dogma, like this is a problem my initiating high priestess Valerie had, as she was raised fundamentalist Christian, like serious like beyond conservative fundamentalist Christian in Alabama in the 60s. And like really effed up stuff. And and she said that one of the problems she has with the whole like commandments thing is there's also not like a catch-all that tells you when something else is wrong that's not in the rule. So people would do stuff like, like some guy would like, meet some woman in a bar or something and then like date rape her and be like, oh well, it's not in the Ten Commandments, and it's like, really? Like that's your justification? Like it's like God didn't put it in these rules, so that makes it okay? Like that's
Yeah.
really effed up. And I think
Yeah.
like we don't go in for that kind of hypocrisy. We're not like we're not okay with that kind of hypocrisy. We're basically like no, you have to actually figure out what it means to be good and actually be good. And which I think was part of my journey in my book was like I'm like I want to figure out what this actual goodness thing is, and and so like I think when we talk about like things like whether it's the Wiccan Rede or the Threefold Law of Return, which I'm not as big of a fan of, but okay, it's one of the things out there. We could talk later why I'm not a big fan of it. Or my law is love unto all beings. Like I think we're talking about like general guidelines that are expressing something deeper. Like there's these deeper mysteries in Wicca that those of us who are really going deeply into this, whether we're traditional or eclectic, I think there are people who, of all sorts who go really deeply into their spirituality, and we are like discovering these mysteries about the goddess and the god, and like I think some of us talk about like there's like a source that everything comes from, and like there's like we're trying to like go deeply into that, right? And we're trying to figure out like how does that inform our goodness, right? And and I think that what we're like kind of coming back with is you have to sort of like have some kind of spiritual poetry or something to kind of express what you're seeing in those experiences, because they're mysterious and ineffable. And what people get lost in is that they're kind of like treating this too much like they're meant to be algorithms, or they're meant to be like strict rules. Like they're kind of thinking like the Wiccan Rede is like our like commandment or something. And
Right.
I think that's the problem, is that we shouldn't be thinking about the Wiccan Rede as like a commandment, because we're not a commandment based religion.
Right. It's a guideline.
Yeah. Like I think we get our true ethics from interacting with the goddess and the god, not like from them telling us what to do, because I don't think we relate to them necessarily as like the king, who like is gonna beat you up if he's gonna spank you if you were bad. I think it's more like we relate to them as like the wise elders of the cosmos who are are kind of like parents to us, but parents in the way that like an adult is wiser than a child, right? Like an adult is more mature than a child. Like they're like these mature, wise beings who are helping us, figure things out. But it's up to us to figure out what makes sense to us ethically and what we think this whole ethical thing is. And it's from our relationship with them, and it's from our practices. Like I think that what I like about love unto all beings is that it's a practice, and I'm really digging on things that you can practice, not just things that you can like follow, because you have to actually love people. It's not just like some sort of rule where you just go like, oh yeah, I'll just like follow this rule and then I'll just be good. It's like you have to practice feeling love for like like that next door neighbor who's like blasting his rock music or something, and be like, they're so loud, but like they're also a human being, and I should go over and knock at their door and be like, hey dude, shut it down, but also be like, have some sort of mercy that they're like probably not, their first thought probably wasn't to disturb me, their first thought was probably just to like rock out, or something, right? Or whatever,
That a long time ago, I saw something like that where somebody brought it to my attention, or something. I read something where it talked about if you get cut off in traffic, or if something really bad happens to you, or something like that somebody else causes, specifically that another person causes, to really take a step back first before you immediately react, to try to figure out, or maybe even say, yeah, that guy just cut me off in traffic, but maybe it's because he's rushing to the hospital to, and they say things like that. And of course there's things too, that just bad things that happen. But I guess it was another way of thinking, of saying, like, before you just react, maybe it's best to get the whole story. One of the things I've learned in my older age is, I don't react a lot to a lot of things nowadays, because my patience is just bigger now. And I just don't, I'm not as hot headed as I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I'll tend to put up with things a lot better. But when what you were talking there about learning these things, like from a spirituality base, or from God and Goddess, and from practice, I believe that as Wiccans, that's 100% dead accurate, because our whole time we're learning through our practices, what I really like to say, what we're learning is about balance,
Yeah.
and really comes down to that, because and as we train in things and we learn things and we start to see mysteries and we start to experience mysteries, one of the things that we really are taught is that there's a balance with everything. Nothing is to the extreme,
Right.
because you can't have that. You can't have all good. You can't have. I once said, I had somebody tell me, "Sure, you can. You can have all good." I'm like, you can't have all good, because then you wouldn't know what good was. If you have nothing to compare it to, if you have nothing to
That's
compare
true. Yeah.
good with bad, then you can't know what good even is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is that it's about balance of things, and I believe
Right.
that a lot of Wiccans who are really into this, and who have been doing it for a long time, initiates or non-initiate, but who have been really connecting
Yeah.
with that spirituality, the
Right.
spirituality of Wicca, because Wicca does have a spirituality attached to it. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
once you've tapped into that, it starts a flow, and it just keeps coming. And as you progress through life, it's not about degrees. It's not about, you get tapped on the head. Your second degree. Oh my God, you should have seen what I learned last night. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
It's sure, you might get tapped on the head and say your second degree, but it might take you 10, 15 years later before you actually learn the things that you needed to learn, to balance yourself out, to get where you need to be.
That's
Um,
true. I can see that.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that these things keep us level-headed, but at the same time, it's like, and that's where a lot, again, with that, going back to the misunderstandings, where people will come in and say, and not see these things, because it is experiential, and it is something that really is even hard to explain at times. But and sometimes the only way to explain it is the way I said it. Harm ye none, but take no shit. And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's knocking on someone with a hard head. That's saying, look, look, this is how I'm going to tell it to you, because, and that's even a little bit extreme, as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, it gets the point across, and it makes people realize that, it's not about, you don't have to be, and by all means, at no point am I saying, as a Wiccan, do you need to, that we don't love, and we don't
Right.
and we're not good people, because
Right.
I also have people come to me and say, "Oh, well, I love and light and blah 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 and da 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 da," and I'm like, "That's great." I said, "And that's good for you." I said, "As long as you have a balance there, it can't be all love and light, and beside, there's a lot of mysteries in the dark. There's
Yeah.
a lot to learn in the darker side of things. Doesn't mean you got to be a scumbag or a bad person. Again,
Right.
it's all about balance, and knowing how to control that pendulum, knowing how to control it, where to go with it, and how to get, because that balance is actually where the training comes in, is where your learning comes in. That experiencing the good and the bad, the love and the light, the dark and the dark and the light.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things, and that's the way nature is. Even nature's like that. Nature is not all
Yeah.
fluff bunny moon fair,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
grizzly bears running around with bunny rabbits.
Right.
Jump on my back, I'll give you a ride, like you see in the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's not the way, no, nature's can be very horrific at the same time. It can be, and it's not, and nature itself is imbalance. When we talk about a lot of these things, most of the time nature is imbalance. I mean, it's just the way it works. And we need to follow that same strategy. It's the
Yeah.
same. That's what the God and Goddess give us. I mean, in my opinion, the God and Goddess to me literally is an energy,
Uh-huh.
um, a masculine
Sure.
energy and a feminine energy,
Uh-huh.
and that energy comes into balance, which caused creation. You know,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and that's
Yeah.
why, and people will say, well, how do you know that that's the truth and that's the way it is? And I said, well, first of all, I don't.
Yeah.
Second of all, second of all, it's what works for me. It's my crutch. It's what gets me through
Right.
this life.
Sure.
And three, what really makes me say, hey, this is what works for me, this masculine feminine coming together, and this whole balance thing, is because I can walk outside and see it in practice. I can see it in practice and say,
Yeah.
okay, the trees are here because of this balance. The animals I'm looking at, the birds flying through the air, the insects that are buzzing around my head, me, myself, and I am
Yeah.
all here because of this balance. And it's not
Right.
about, and it's that whole balance. It's not just about male and female. There's more
Uh-huh.
to it than that. There's more to the balance than that. It's
Right.
also about the dark and light, male, female, positive, negative. All of that comes into play.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, and understanding that, I believe that us as Wiccans understanding that and beginning to learn that is also what gives us a deeper understanding, and therefore causing us to think a little bit more, to think before
Right.
we act and do things, and cooler heads prevail type deal. And that also might be another reason why people look at Wiccans and go, yeah, they're so passive, or da 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 da
Yeah.
da. It's like, yeah, it's like they seem passive because we have a different understanding of things, possibly. A different way of seeing things in our world, the way we came to understand it, the way we came to experience it. But like I said before, and I've said it many a times, the last thing you want to do is cross somebody who's like us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, oh man, the ball rolls in so many different ways for me right now. So with balance, like when I was coming up, what my high priest and high priestess had us do was elemental balancing. So like they had us like go deep into each of the four elements and then like balance the four of them. And the way they understood it is like air is like very much about like intellect, and then water is more about emotion and intuition, and then
Mm-hmm.
and those are across each other on the circle, right? Like air is east and water is west, and
Yeah.
then earth is all about like kind of primal survival kind of stuff, health, wealth.
Stability and foundation and
Yeah,
stuff.
stability, exactly. Yeah, and then like fire is more about like your creativity, like art, poetry, um,
Yep.
um, passion, like, and also kind of like your will in life, like what you want to accomplish with your life that's beyond just mere survival, like what you want to give back to the world and stuff. And
Yep.
so it's sort of like it's like the all fire no earth is kind of like the starving artist. It's
Yep.
like they're not paying their money for food, they're paying their money for paint or something.
That's me. That's me.
Yeah, and so like it seems like one thing I'm really learned from that is, like with a balance between intellect and intuition, is like getting back to my thoughts about ethics. Like at one time I tried to do things in a very intellectual way, and that's why I got like really into philosophy, because I sort of thought I was going to solve my problems, and then I realized like I don't really feel like Western philosophy did a good job of figuring out, because I don't think that reason is a good way to get at ethics. But like there's also a problem that like if we're just totally intuitive and we just follow our hearts, we can come into all sorts of clashes. Like I see that all the time where people have different intuitions about
That could be
how to
chaotic.
act, and so like we have to think things through, and we also have to be intuitive. So there's some balance there. that comes into play, and we also have to balance, like, what we need, what our needs are, with like what's best for everybody at the same time. Like, and I think one thing that we believe in that I think is different from a lot of religions is, I don't think we believe in being either, like, we don't believe in being selfish, but we also don't believe in being selfless either. Like,
Yeah,
and because, like, if
there's
you
a balance.
exactly, yeah, like, and I have this term that I've coined, if I'm allowed to coin terms, which I call allish, like Allish,
Yeah.
allish instead of selfish. So it's like to me that's the true opposite of selfish, is because, like, if you're selfless, you're taking the cosmos, you're the world, and you're cutting yourself out of it, pulling yourself out, and leaving a U-shaped hole left in the world, right? And you're not
Mhm.
caring about you. Like, you're important, you matter. Like, you can't be good if you're dead, you know.
Right.
Like, you're not going to do any good to anybody if you just, like, ignore
That's
your needs.
100%. It's like they say. It's like there's that whole thing that pops up where they say, I if you act to do something, or if you're one of the things I guess I like to say is, like, you are the most important, the way some people might see it, you are the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
Because if you're not there anymore, then there's no more importance of you. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's kind of like saying, like, somebody might say, oh, well, it's for the better good, for you to act on something, which is fine. That could be something like, if you see a bus full of school children, you can save every one of them by sacrificing yourself. So a lot of people will do that. They'll
uh
go and they'll sacrifice themselves to go save all these kids, for instance, in this situation, but the reality is that's something, and that's something that people, that's up to you, and then there's people who wouldn't do anything. They'd be like, well, but I do believe that sometimes people, where I could say that, where I like to say that you're the most important person in your life, because without you, none of it exists. You
mm,
know,
uh
which is a weird way of looking at it, which is another way of looking at it, a funny way of looking at it, because
yeah.
it doesn't mean that you cut things out. You know what I mean? Like, again, you could make that sacrifice, but the reality is once you have, that's that for this life. Now we don't know what happens in the afterlife, and we don't know what goes on there,
Yeah.
but the reality is for this moment, for this very moment, in that moment in time, you know, at every moment as we're living right now, we are the primary focus of everything.
Mm,
Everything that you do and everything you think of and everything you work with is all coming back to you at the core,
yeah.
because you are it. This is it. This life is you.
Yeah.
You know what it was? It was where people say, "This is my world. You just live in it."
Oh, yeah. Well,
Say, like,
and yeah, well, and the corollary to that is, I think that what gives us our lives meaning, or at least what gives my life meaning, is being a good person and also connecting with other people. So,
yeah,
if we were on our deathbeds and we were just selfish our whole lives, our life wouldn't have any meaning, because like, all we did was for us, and we're about to die, and we wouldn't have a
mhm.
chance, like, and like, that would be hell. Like, we can't do anything, we're about to die, right?
And
We can't go back
it's
and change it.
it's in our nature to want to help others and do things for
Yeah,
others.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, that's true. And the thing is that uh, so to me, it's important to, like, being myself, and like, my role in the world is important, and it's
mhm.
also important to be good, and interface with others in a good way, because that actually
Mhm.
is what gives my life meaning, and that's actually what
Yep.
I most deeply want.
Yep.
Um, and
Do you believe that, real quick before you move on from that, because
yeah,
you just said something key? Somebody asked me one time, and I kind of channeled it in. It was
uh,
an immediate response that and it was in a circle. They asked me, they were kidding around,
okay,
and they said, "Well, what's the meaning of life, Mannun?" And out of nowhere, it just hit me at once, and I just said, and I literally said, to give life meaning.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great answer. I think
And,
that's a great answer.
and I was
Um,
wondering, because usually when I tell that to people, anytime I tell that to people, what I usually get is, I have to think about that one. And
yeah.
nobody, I very few times give where anybody agrees with me on that. And I'm wondering, like, how you feel about that kind of, well, you just said it. You said it, you're getting,
Oh, absolutely. No, that makes total sense to me because like there's this guy I really like in University of Toronto, John Vervaeke. He actually made my bibliography, and he's actually one of my footnotes in my book. And he is a cognitive scientist, and I didn't learn about him until the editing process. So I actually like written my book first, and then I got a hold of him and was like, oh my gosh, this academic is actually talking about a lot of the same stuff that I am. And he does like the cognitive science of spirituality in this really deep way. And he has this lecture series called Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. Okay, the
from the what?
from the meaning crisis. Meaning,
Meaning crisis. Okay.
right? MEANING. I probably am talking fast and slurring, but um, and it is like the most amazing academic tour de force I've seen in a long time. It's like these 50 lectures that he gives on YouTube on and he thinks that right now we're in a crisis of making meaning. Like we've hit this brick wall in the West where we have trouble making meaning, and he thinks that like that is the kind of like the mother crisis that all the other, like, you know, there's like the mental health crisis and there's like the this crisis and that crisis. Like in my book, I say there's an ethics crisis.
Yeah.
He says there's a meaning crisis, which is like the crisis, and it was great. It was like he goes deep, does this huge deep dive
Wow.
into meaning, how we make meaning, and like why the West is like kind of took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, as it were, about, you know, this meaning thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we like science gives us a dead universe, but actually the cosmos, I mean, we're conscious. Like there are conscious beings in the cosmos, right? Like we're part of the cosmos. Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
separate from the cosmos. And I think this is very much part how we think in a nature religion. Like in a religion like Christianity, they have this supernatural and natural dichotomy, but we have like this integrated, you know, view that like our gods are nature gods and we are part of nature. But like if you think about it, like there's no point at which I end and the world begins, and no point at which the world ends and you begin. We are all integrated. And
Mm-hmm.
John Vervaeke says that we're a peer-to-peer network, you know, like in computer networking. And he says, like, that's not woo-woo. Like, if you think that's some woo-woo new age thing, how did you learn to read?
Mm-hmm.
See, it's not woo-woo. Like, you learned
Uh,
from another human being taught you how to read. Like, you probably went to
right.
school and a teacher taught you. Like, see, we're a peer-to-peer network. And
Yep.
so like we are actually part of the cosmos. Like this is like a very Zen way to think about it. But like there's this metaphor in Zen, which is like we bubble. Like it's not the case like how we think about it in the West. In the West, we think of it as like we come into the world, we live and act in the world, and then we leave the world. But like
Mm-hmm.
in Zen, there's this different view, which is we bubble out. Like if the world is an ocean, we rise out of it like a wave. We
Okay.
we are in it. We're involved in it, and we crest, and then we crash back into it, right? And that's actually a more accurate description. The more I think about it, that's actually a more accurate description of how we actually are in the world. We're part of the world. Like the
Yeah.
atoms that made us up are the same atoms that make everything else up. Like, you know, we kind of emerged as these conscious beings, right? But we're all actually part of this bigger world. And one thing about nature religions, I think, and I wonder what you think, is I feel like there's this misunderstanding that people think that nature religions, like nature isn't necessarily good, but like we may actually mean something. We may actually be talking about something that's truly good when we talk about nature, because we may be talking about our interconnectedness with everything else, which
Well,
is
that's exactly.
yeah. Um, uh,
It's about. I think what a lot of people think nature religion, who to the to the uneducated mind, I don't know how to say it, that
yeah,
they think that when we say nature religion, I think they think that means that, oh, that means that they walk around in the woods a lot and talk to plants and hug trees.
yeah,
It's so much more. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I mean,
yeah,
what you want to do, but the reality is it's a nature religion. It's the natural world around. It's the world around us. It's the world we connect with. The seasons, the planets, the stars, the air, the earth, the sun, the moon, everything around us.
right,
Other people, other energies. The energy as a whole. For the Star Wars freaks out there, the Force. You know,
yeah,
it's an energy as a whole. That's what we mean by nature religion. It's not
yeah,
like that doesn't mean that oh, what meaning nature religion means basically you go out to the woods a lot and camp and stuff. It's like, no, it's like that doesn't have to mean that at all. I mean, yeah, we do those
yeah,
things too, but that's not because I mean, yes, but it's also a lot more than that. It's about being in
yeah,
tune with everything and all of those energies that make up everything around you and the world around you. If you really want to break it, everybody is, and the reason it's a religion is because the way we follow, which I hate calling Wicca a religion, because I like to call it more
hmm,
spirituality,
hmm,
but
okay,
it kind of is a religion because I mean, to me, the definition of a religion is having a belief in a higher power that gives
uh-huh,
you some kind of existence.
uh-huh,
Okay, period. And it's a crutch to get you through life. In other words, bad things happen in life and good things happen in life. Most of the time, the good things that happen in life, most people poo poo. Great, it happened. I'm so happy. The bad things they tend to pay more attention to because it's bad. And then all of a sudden they turn to God.
hmm,
Um, and whatever God, whatever crutch that is that they're leaning on is God. In Wicca, it's kind of hard because it's in my particular path of it. The way I see it
hmm,
is because my God is, I believe in a higher power, which is a god and goddess, which is a masculine and feminine energy. But I don't give those energies any value as far as, I shouldn't say value, any distinctions. Like I don't see them as a man and a woman up in the
uh-huh,
sky
right,
somewhere.
uh-huh,
I don't see
sure,
it like that at all. They're unfathomable. The
right,
second, as a matter of fact, the second I try to give them an image or a characteristic,
right,
I'm not doing. I'm not. I'm. They're no longer God and Goddess
sure,
because
sure,
God and Goddess are omnipotent. They're unfathomless. They are neither. You know, it's all. It's all just beyond our recognition of what And the second you start giving them characteristics, you start humanizing them. And the second you start humanizing them, you start giving them faults. You know,
oh,
so
sure,
that's why I stay away from that. So when I guess why it's calling Wicca a religion is because I never look at the god and goddess and say, if something bad happens to me, and say, help me through this. I mean, it's just, this is just me.
yeah,
Um, but what I will do is, I mean, and you know what? That's not even necessarily true. I can't even say that because there has been times where I went Christian, so to speak, and and literally said like, hey, but I really do believe in that I'm the one that creates the energy and manipulates the energy to help me in a situation
so
to
wait,
turn it
so what do you
around.
mean by going Christian?
Literally seeing God and Goddess as, there has been times in my life where I have literally seen God and Goddess as two energies that were up in the cosmos or within or without, that could step in and help me and give me an energy or something, or give me some kind of healing or something like that, in that
Uh-huh,
sense, and
uh-huh,
make it
oh, I
where
see,
something happened, like in that sense, like where people will look towards, like where Christians will look towards Jesus or God and say, hey, help me out here, I'm praying to you to help me, please help me.
Uh-huh.
I don't, necessarily see that like that, but there have been
Oh,
times in
I
my life
see.
where I have done
Okay,
that,
that's
like
interesting.
literally done that, like seeing God and Goddess as God or Jesus, for
Okay.
instance.
Uh-huh. I see.
So I'm not going to say I've never been there. I have been there, but for the most part, in general, if I pray, so to speak, if I
Uh-huh.
pray
Uh-huh.
for something, it's more me manipulating, recognizing energy that I
Uh-huh.
have
Uh-huh.
and manipulating it to try to benefit me. I guess
Okay, yeah, that
I
that's
can
that's that's
imagine.
a good theology. I mean, I really like that. I'm I think one thing, like, coming from a, since I was raised in a non-Western, like a non Abrahamic religion, I think one of my perspectives is that like there's a huge diversity of religion out there, and I think that oftentimes when we think about religion in the West, like, we have a Christian model in our mind, or at least an Abrahamic model in our mind of what a religion looks like. And I think that, like, I guess I would say that I think that Wicca is a religion, but it's a very different religion from the Abrahamic
Very
ones. It's a very different model. Like, when I've talked, for instance, with Hindus, I get a very different view of, like, what religion can be, right? Like they'll be saying things like there was this one Hindu woman I talked to who's a Shaktiist, and she worships Shiva and Kali, and so for her, Kali is the cosmos, and Shiva is all consciousness, and I think this is what's called Kashmiri Shivism, or something like that. It's like from Kashmir, and but anyway, it's like so like for her, her whole spiritual path is like we are Shiva experiencing Kali, and so it's like
Oh,
the
geez.
divine marriage of like us as Shiva and the cosmos as Kali, and I was like, wow, that's a really amazing, like, view of divinity, like, which we just don't get in, like, the Abrahamic religions, where you usually have, like, God as, like the grand high king who,
Yeah, a
lays
separate
down
being.
laws. He has a separate
Yeah.
being. Like, God is the God the Father is supernatural. He's like above nature. And so, or another example, it's also from a Hindu, is there was this Hindu woman I talked to who was actually an atheist. And I said, wait, how could you be an atheist and a Hindu? And she said, worshiping a loving God makes me more loving. Worshiping a compassionate God makes me more compassionate. And I'm like, there you go. Like, hey, and I've been, in my book, I've actually talking with a friend of my family who's a sociologist of religion, Steve Tipton at Emory University, and so I've been talking with him a lot about like what all religion can mean, and, like, based on what he said, like, I feel like Wicca is a religion, but it's
Mhm.
it's just a very different religion than the ones people are used to in the West. So,
Yeah.
like you can, like your idea of the god and goddess as energy, that's cool. Like, that sounds like a lot, like, reminds me a bit of like the Tao and Taoism, or like you're saying the Force earlier. I guess, like like I got really into, there's this ancient Greek philosopher named Celestius that Don Frew, who's a Wiccan elder here in the West Coast, got a lot of us into,
Mhm.
because Gerald Gardner references him in Witchcraft Today,
Mhm.
and so, like, I deep dived into this work by Celestius called "On the Gods and the World," and so I have, like, this very and, like, kind of, like, to me, like, the gods are kind of like maybe a little bit like Platonic forms. They're a little bit like, there's a sense to which they're ineffable mysteries. They're a little bit like, okay, like, for me, like Hecate, right? Like, Hecate is, among other things, a goddess of crossroads and gates and doors. Um, but she's also, like, the keepress of the cosmos, the gatekeepress of the cosmos. She can open the
Mhm.
way up to the celestial realm. She can open the way down to the realm of the dead. Um, so she is, to me, she is liminal, and liminality is real. Like, liminal, like, my new this is my newest take on what a god is. Okay, is I have four qualities which are totally not the ones we think of. My qualities are ineffable, meaning you can't speak of them. Mysterious, meaning they're mysteries. They're unknowable. Um, like some sort of like Platonic form-ish sense. If you're not into Platonism and Greek philosophy, don't worry about that. But it's basically like there's kind of some sense to which they're like like these really big, more sort of abstract kind, not abstract is probably the wrong word, but kind of thing. They're not just like concrete physical material things. And then fourthly, there's some sense to where they're intelligent. And so like my take on Hecate, who's like one of the goddesses I'm closest to, one of the deities I'm closest to, is Hecate is all about liminality to me, or that's one of the things she's about. And and liminality is real, but it's like our relationships are liminal, but liminality is ineffable. Like if we talk about by talking about liminality, we're not being liminal, we're talking about something that's not liminal, because liminality is about what's between two things, and anything you talk about is by definition not something between two things. She's mysterious for the same reason, because we can't really know liminality. If we did, that would be it wouldn't be liminal, it would be something that we know. And she's there's a sense to which she's like kind of like it's sort of up in the realm of Platonic forms, in the sense that she's kind of like all liminality itself, like liminality itself by itself. This is how Plato actually described the forms, like love itself by itself, justice itself by itself. Okay, and then, but there's also a sense to which, and like we can't be, like getting back to ethics, like I think we need to go into the liminal in order to be ethical, because ethics is about relationships among us, not just us. Ethics isn't just about how I want to act, it's about how you and I relate. But it's not just how you and I relate, it's about how it's like general principles, or a general like model in our minds about how to treat everybody. It doesn't mean we treat everybody exactly the same, but it means that we have a model in our minds about how to behave that is going to be good. So it's not just something that you and I agree on because there's 8 billion people in the world. It has to be something that, and that's too many different relationships to track. So like we have this general model that we use, right? And so like Hecate for me is an important goddess for being a good person, because relationships are part of what she's about. And then she's also intelligent in a certain sense, in the same way that like we are a peer-to-peer network, like all information travels through liminal spaces, and there's a sense to which like it's kind of like if we are the brain cells of the cosmos, our relationships are the neurons. They're the connections, and so there's like an intelligence that happens with like an interconnection of information. So there's to me, I feel like there's sort of something that we're talking about when we talk about Hecate that is real. It's like we've created this myth that that is trying to encapsulate some real ineffable mystery that we're trying to get some sort of touch points on, but like because it's ineffable, we can't use ordinary language to talk about it. So you have this like myth, but it's a very real, very powerful thing that's important. Yeah, you get it.
I think you're onto there. Yeah, because I actually talk about that where I believe. I strongly believe in egregores and whatnot, especially in thought forms and all this stuff. And so it would be hypocritical, like as far as like Jesus and gods and goddesses. I believe they exist as an energy, and I believe they exist exactly how people put them out there. To be honest with you, exactly how people put them out there. Because if you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people all concentrating their energy and their thought form on a specific focus, for instance, a god or a goddess, that energy is going to create. Jesus, like some people will say, how can you believe in Jesus being a Wiccan? And I'll say because millions and millions of people have created him. I mean, let's be real. I would be a hypocrite. I would be a hypocrite and a not magical person if I didn't believe that Jesus wasn't real.
Yeah.
Do I give the Jesus figure any of my energy, and do I use him? Not really. I mean, I just never really had a reason to. But my wife does. She's a witch, and she keeps Jesus right on her altar. She loves Jesus.
Right on. Yeah.
And and the whole thing is, even though it's like it doesn't fit the Christian criteria, a lot of what she does and everything, but reality is those forces exist. So does Satan. I mean, Satan's probably exists more than Christ. I mean, let's be real. The church puts so much effort in that guy. I mean, it's like, of course that exists too. Again, I don't give Satan any of my energy, so it doesn't really affect me any.
Yeah.
But, and I kind of see the gods and goddesses in the same way. Like I see like that there's, I believe there's 3 levels. 1 level, 2 level being male and masculine, feminine force. And that's where I'm at. And then the next lower down is a polytheistic level.
Okay, sure.
Where there's thousands and thousands of gods
and
goddesses, and they all have characteristics, looks. People worship them. People painted pictures of them. They know what they look. They know how they act. They're jealous gods, angry gods, loving gods. All of that stuff. All the characteristics that people have, and people will use them in their magic, and people will use them in their prayers, and people will use them in their religion to again as a crutch. As a help, as something, and when I say that as a crutch, I'm not putting, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying something bad or negative.
Right.
What I'm literally meaning is it's like we use crutches to help us walk. Sometimes we need gods and goddesses and religion to get through life. Most of us do, to be honest with you. Even atheists, the way I see it, have a religion side of them where I actually have a couple of atheist friends where they'll tell me, well, I don't believe in anything. So I take no, I said, that's not true. You do believe in something. Yeah. You choose, you believe and not to believe. And I said, and let me ask you a question. What do you think happens when you die? And they say, well, just black, just nothing. I said, well, there you go. That's your belief then. You're not exempt from this because you're because you're an atheist. You're not exempt from the belief system. You too have a belief system. Your belief is it. That's it. That's when you die. That's it. Black. Boom. Fade to black. Done.
Yeah.
That's a belief. I mean, because is it true? Is that what happens?
None of us knows.
Exactly. So you're right in there with everybody else. Welcome to the religion of atheism.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah.
And the thing you were talking about with the elements, that's really cool too. That's would come into the balance with that. That's a great practice. I actually have a video where I talk about the elements, and I actually have a whole thing that a person can download. It's a path working to help them balance the elements. All
right, that's cool.
A whole system to work with the elements and balance the elements, and I believe that's super important in people's lives because it's like you were saying, it's something that will bring some balance to you, which in essence bringing balance to your life brings peace to your life. Okay, and bringing that peace to your life is, I believe, what some of the people, to get back to the ethics situation, is why some of these people say bah humbug on Wicca. Because of some of the people that they know that are at peace with themselves and with their life that they're working with. Not even if it's not, and there's different levels of peace. I'm not talking about all like kumbaya, like nothing ever goes wrong. Just being somewhat balanced is being at peace, in my opinion. And that peace means not as much stress. And remember, I'm not going to say none.
Yeah.
I'm saying not as much stress in life. Things tend to flow easier. Things seem to be understood a lot easier. Hate isn't as much You don't hate as much as some people might hate something or hate something else or hate somebody, God forbid. Or
Yes.
you don't experience the again, the only way I can explain it is being balanced is being at peace, and being at peace means your pendulum is going like this instead of like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The way Valerie explained it to us when I was coming up is she said it's like riding a bike. Like if you lean too far one way, you'll fall off. If you lean too far the other way, you'll fall off. But sometimes the road goes like that. You know, like sometimes you have to like balance one way and like, or she give the example like if you're out of work, you probably need to go to get unbalanced at the earth plane because you need a job, right? So you may need to like be more earth than fire for a while. If you're in like a really good place with your earth plane stuff and you're feeling all creative and everything and you get your creative juices flowing, it's probably a good time to like go more into fire, right?
Yep.
There are times
And
to
that
yeah
system, in that system that I have that you can
yeah
download from that
yeah
video, actually it takes a couple of months to do it,
mm-hmm.
but in the end, you end up making a little biorhythm type deal, and it literally tells you where you're lacking and where you're strong. And most of the time, people will find themselves with a lot of fire, and not and then they automatically think, oh well, if I have all this fire, then I guess that means I got to throw water on it to put it out. No,
No,
that's not the solution. The
no,
solution, if you have a lot of fire, may be for you to bring some earth into it to make it more stable. To make your creative forces, or like you were saying earlier, with the starving artist syndrome. That was a
yeah,
great example. It doesn't necessarily mean, but then again, if you have a whole shit ton of fire in your life, you don't want to bring in a bunch of air to try to blow it out because you're probably just going to make it worse.
yeah,
It's like you're probably going to feed it. Which
right,
makes, because if you think about it, we have fire, creativity, things like that. Let's use creativity as a thing. Like
yeah,
you're really creative, you're really passionate about things, and you really want to get them done. What's going to happen if you bring in a bunch of intellect into that? A
yeah,
bunch of intellect and knowledge and those things. If you bring a lot of those ideas and intellect and knowledge into that fire, all you're going to do is cause more ideas. Wait a minute. So I have all these things going on already that I'm so creative. Now you need to focus on anchoring those ideas and letting them do the things for you. If you bring in a bunch of air, now you're just expanding it, and now you're all of a sudden bringing a whole bunch more ideas and a whole bunch more things, and now you're just basically making it even worse because you're in a way you see you're like making it, you're adding on top of that, and you're blowing into it, and you're saying all of these things need to expand. So instead of stabilizing your idea and finally finishing your book and finally using earth to finish your book, using earth to put the stamp on it and send it to the publisher and get it done. If you stick with air, all of a sudden you're writing 20 more chapters and you're never finishing the book.
right,
Maybe you need to use earth to finish that book and then bring air back in a little bit to start a second book, part 2. But get that first one out. I mean, if that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. It's like it's like you starving artists out there, like go out and get yourself some ramen, okay? Because if you die on the street, you're not gonna mature as an artist, and you just die and won't be able to enjoy your art.
Yep. And people will say that too. Like, how do you get people who want to be creative and they want to do things? That's the biggest thing I think that anybody can ever give to anybody who's an artist with anything, whether it's writing, whether it's doing video, whether it's doing photography, doing whatever you're doing. The number one tip I can give anybody with stuff like that is do it and start it. Just do it and get it out.
Yeah.
If it means making a shitty video to put on YouTube for your first video,
Yeah.
everybody has to go through it. Get your first video out. Get that. It doesn't have to, because I know for every 10 people I know that want to start in YouTube videos, for instance, that never got it out because they nitpicked their video.
Oh, yeah. I can relate, but I'm laughing because I can relate, but I've also like gone through the process of like just forcing myself out there.
You got to get it out there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I actually have a thing in my book that's about balance in the appendix. I have like all these rituals and practices to like help you get in touch with this goodness thing, or to like break down goodness into like different discrete little pieces that are easier to deal with. And
Hmm.
so I have this one ritual that's balancing compassion and self discipline, and I have kind of like love in the middle, and so like, because like sometimes that can be hard, right? Like we can have like we can be really compassionate, but then like if we're too compassionate, like people can, or we're too simplistic about our compassion. Let's say people can kind of jerk us around with our emotions.
Hmm.
They can be like kind of mess with our sense of duty to them. But if we're like if we're just self-disciplined, like that doesn't necessarily make us good people. Like we like there's like the Nazis had lots of discipline, but they weren't good people, right? Like you have
Yep.
to have both to in
Yep.
order to and so I have like this whole ritual about balancing those things out. So yeah, you can
Yeah,
balance out. Go ahead. Yeah.
because to let somebody take advantage of you is not doing you any justice either, and it's actually
Yeah.
throwing you off balance, and it's actually a bad thing to do. You should not
Right.
let somebody take advantage of you. You should,
Exactly.
you should not let somebody abuse you. You should never let somebody hurt you in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And you have to do what you have to do to stop them.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of gets back to like what I was saying earlier, what my high priestess said, that she could love Hitler and kill him at the same time.
Yeah.
Is you can like it's not necessarily to is not love to just let somebody jerk you around. Like it's like it may be like the best thing for you is probably maybe to like get your distance from somebody, and it may also be that like honestly like they have their path that they have to walk, and it may be that if they're going through life being jerks and using people like that, like maybe having somebody just like disengage them, like what the hell, like I was always able to like jerk people around, but I couldn't jerk this one guy around, like
Yeah.
that might do something. Like you want to help them, maybe that will do something good for them. I mean, to learn that,
And, and keep in mind, immediately you're going to be the problem when
for
you
them, from their
when you
perspective.
finally
Yeah,
tell that person,
yeah,
hey, you know
yep.
what, screw you. Of course, you're the one at fault. You're the one, and they're going to try to convince you of that, and
Oh yeah,
stand strong. So, real quick, I wanted to ask you about the threefold law. Like, what is your feelings on the threefold law of retribution? Like you mentioned
yeah.
earlier, you weren't very fond of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. I said put a pin in that, didn't I? Yeah. So like my thing is the way it's often talked about by like eclectic Wiccans and people who are sort of outside of Wicca looking in, is that it's like what you put out there comes back threefold. And
Mhm.
like my issues with that are number
Like,
one, number one, it's not that's not really a concept of ethics. It's more like like okay, so in my research for my book, right, like Immanuel Kant was one of the philosophers I read, and in his book, Foundation of Metaphysic of Morals, he says that he thinks that you're not really good if you're just doing it in order to like gain some reward. Like he gives the example of like let's say there's two shopkeepers and one of them has and they both have fair prices, but one of them has fair prices because he thinks that he's going to make more money that way, and the other one has fair prices because he actually thinks it's the right thing to do. Like the first one isn't actually being good because like if conditions changed and he thought that he'd make more money ripping people off, he'd rip people off. But like the second guy wouldn't, even if he thought he could make money. And so like if all you're saying is like I'm not gonna be bad because doing bad things to others will come back to me threefold, well that's just like saying I'm afraid to be bad. Like you're not really saying like I think I ought to be good. Like if you,
right,
so it's like that implies like well if you didn't think that things would come back threefold, you just be bad. Like that's
right.
kind of empty to me, and so that kind of bothers me, and and then the other thing is I never really understood why it's threefold. Like what like I like the concept of karma a lot better, particularly the Buddhist concept of karma that I was raised with, which is more like what you put out there is gonna go into your environment. So
Yes.
if you're doing bad things all the time, you're going to create a bad environment, not just because like you're doing bad things, but yeah, like people like you're setting an example. You're like pushing on other people, and they're going to push back in all probability, because they don't like what you're doing. And you're going to like create this like miserable experience for yourself where you're just alienating people and right. But if you put good out there, then you're going to live in an environment that's full of goodness. Like if you're going to have people who like you because you have people who are like you're going to get along better with people because which is what we want and love, and you're going to, as I said, like have more meaning in your life because you're like creating this goodness around you. And I think that's like, to me, that's a kind of more realistic and
because the way that it's taught, the way that it's in some of the books out there and stuff, in some of the books, which I hate this, is it's taught almost like that, where it creates more fear than wisdom. Exactly what you were saying. It makes it where it almost turns it into like a little system of nervousness, and people are afraid to act or afraid to speak or afraid to defend themselves, do anything about, because of exactly like you were saying that, well, if I do something bad, oh no, then it's going to, come back like that. And it's, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, because there's consequences and everything anyway, and the thing is that as far as I'm concerned, it's like there should be, the deeper meaning is exactly is the basically rebuttal what you said, is that it's putting out, it's having an awareness. You're putting out there to the world. You're sort of building with the energy that you're putting out there. You're building a situational awareness around you.
Yeah. That's a good way to put
it. You're basically, if you're doing a lot of good things in life, you're creating those energies around you. You're creating to attract that back. If you set up your life to do a whole bunch of shitty things to people all the time, or to do shitty things period all the time,
right, you're
going to get that back. You're literally creating a system that's going to reward you however you have been putting it in. If that makes sense?
Absolutely, definitely.
You were saying the same thing. So I see it the exact same way that you do. It's not about if you push Billy off his bike, 3 days later you're going to get hit by a car. That's not how it works.
Right.
It literally is what you put into the universe is what you get back, in a sense that you're building your system. You're building your energy around you. You're building what you're creating your little environment that's going to reflect what comes back to you.
Absolutely.
And it's like and it's funny what you said about if you do something good, you only do it for yourself. I actually talked with a guy once who was very much into politics, and we were talking about politics actually, and he said that there's no such thing. I don't agree with him.
Okay.
But he says there's no such thing as a person doing something good for somebody else. That anytime somebody does something good for somebody else, the reality is they're doing it for their own satisfaction, so that they can make themselves feel good. Because otherwise, the only way to do something truly good for somebody else, it has to be a completely selfless act, and an act of complete, unconditional, put that together.
I feel you. I don't entirely agree with that either. What I would say is that we can do something that's good for everybody. Like we can think, like, this is what I'm trying to get people to do in my book, is to try to spiritually connect with the idea that we're all part of the same whole, And if you see it that way, then we can be doing what is kind of best for that whole as we see it.
Yeah.
And we may disagree, like we may still have friction with people because I'll have one idea about what that is and you have another. But the point is that we're trying to do what's best for that whole rather than just doing what's best for ourselves. And
Right.
I kind of get what he's saying, that it's like but that if you're like completely, I don't believe in being selfless either, like I've already said, but I think that that there's another way to look at it than this politician is looking at it, which is that we're part of a larger whole and we can serve that larger whole. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, one reason why a lot of spirituality has to do with awakening to something greater than ourselves and
Yeah.
coming into that. Um,
Yep.
but listen, I think we've been at this for over an hour, and I'm
Oh
thinking
yeah.
maybe we should cut it off. I think this has been a really amazing conversation, Menon. And I feel like we could go on all day.
Oh no,
Um,
I know.
and and and
If
and, and
we were in the circle night, they'd be kicking us out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I
Like you guys
know,
know.
yeah, yeah. It's been really wonderful to like hang out with you and just talk ethics with you and stuff like that. But I'm going to suggest that we end it
Close it
here.
up. Yep, that's fine.
All right,
I actually got to take my daughter to work in about 20 minutes anyway. So
all right. Um, yeah. Speaking of doing things for others. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Manon, and be good, everybody out there. Um, and
yes.
and whatnot. All right.
All
All
right,
right.
guys. In a
Blessed
bit.
be.
Okay, blessed be. Bye bye.
Bye.